Yeah, so I was working in a supplement shop about 8 years ago for my summer holidays. And what I'd do is we'd meet up about 6 in the morning, we'd train first thing. I shower, go to the shop, and then they stationed me in front of the gym. So I'd be the one selling all the mass gainers and the whey protein to these keen gym enthusiasts. But then also at the same time, like it's like nothing's changed really in the last decade, because people still come in asking for the magic pill, and they'd ask like, "Oh, have you got these raspberry ketones? Have you got like all these weird things?" So I spend my days like educating them on this. But the problem was this place was really dead. So we'd have a customer every 1 to 2 hours. In between, I'd just be dusting the shelves and cleaning all the supplement tubs because they hadn't been bought for months. And then this was in a phase where I was trying to really build some muscle. So I was probably like 70 kilos, but still skinny fat and trying to get bigger. And I was like, I need to eat 6 times a day. This was my thing at the time. Like, I need to eat 6 times a day. So I said the owner said to me that you got 1 hour lunch break. So my first day I said, look, I need more than 1 hour. I'd rather have 3 20-minute breaks than one hour break, because I need to eat. And he's like, why do you need to eat? And this guy was a big, like, he's a fat dude running a supplement shop. It was really bizarre. He's like, why do you need to eat? I was like, I need to eat at certain times of the day. So I need to take 20-minute breaks. And somehow he agreed to it. So then what I'd do is I'd work for like an hour and a half or walking around the shop. And then I'd go back in the staff back room, and then wolf down a meal, and then come back out and then spread my meals out like that. So yeah, I was just reflecting on that because I was just thinking about the time we saw The Rock training.
Yeah.
And actually in that time when we saw The Rock, because he was filming Fast and Furious, and he was filming at Wembley Stadium. And this was at the time where he used to be very active on Twitter. And he used to say like, he used to wake up at like 3 in the morning, and he'd be like, cardio begins in 3, 2, 1. I don't know if you remember that. He used to talk about the cardio beginning in 3, 2, 1.
I do know he's got a pretty crazy schedule though, and he literally takes his gym around America when he tours and acts and stuff.
So what he says is he said it's the anchor for him. Right? So he said like no matter where he goes, the gym is always the anchor, and it's what keeps him sane as he travels on. And so he used to start like 3, 4 a.m. we cardio, and then we'd see him at the gym at 6 a.m. So he'd literally do his cardio, then come back, and then I think he'd eat steak and eggs, and then he'd come to the gym. And this is when he was talking about the trainer being the anchor, and I think that's when it really hit home for me around 8 years ago. It's like, this is like the anchor to be able to do anything, just to be mentally safe. I know, right?
He's been using the physical as a vehicle for years.
Absolutely. I mean, look, you question like whether he'd get the roles he does if he wasn't for the physical.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy.
So yeah, lots happened in that time, and then at the same time, I was just thinking about how, with it being the anchor, something I was speaking to. We help we have a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs in the RNT client base, and one thing I was talking to a group of them about is that how the physical is one of the best and most underutilized business development tools and career development tools. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, because I know it's something you speak passionately about, and that without the physical, you wouldn't be able to take your career forwards in any way. And this is appealing to anyone who's a go-getter in their career or high performer, and they just want to get better, and how you can use the physical as a vehicle to achieve that.
Yeah. So I guess, with my story, the reason that I'm actually speaking to you right now is literally because of the transformation that I went through with you guys a couple of years ago now. Seems so long ago. But it was going through that transformation, going through that journey. And it's not like I was in bad shape. I was still in like good shape, but I still knew that I could, knowing that I could go to that extreme, knowing that I could push myself eventually. That transition in and of itself just gave me the confidence to be able to tackle whatever I wanted in my life. You know what I mean? I was like, man, if I can take myself to the extreme without any like end show or any photo shoot there was no like carrot at the end of that stick. It was just, here's the stick, just go chase it. You know what I mean? Get into the best shape you possibly can, just because it's fun. So knowing that I could do something like that, and come out the other end in a really good place. That in and of itself just gave me so much confidence, not just in my physical self, but just with being able to leave a job that I just wasn't happy with for a long time, just having the courage to actually leave and, pursue something that I was really, really passionate about, which was coaching in this sort of format, in the online format with a driven and productive team. Back if the opportunity came about a couple of years ago, I probably would have thought I was good enough. I'd be like, no, it's not for me. Blah blah. Would have made up all these excuses just to stay at where I was and be comfortable. And I think that would have, again, I think if I never joined up with RNT, or if I never took the step to really pursue that physical transformation, I don't think any of this would have happened, And even Nath, my coach at the time, is now my best friend, colleague, all that sort of stuff as well. So a lot of things have happened because of that transformation, and it still bleeds into everything I do today. And I think it will always be that way. And I think I'll always look back on that being one of the most pivotal points in my life in all avenues. So, yeah.
What's crazy is I remember you came across us through that "How Heavy Will You Be" lean article, and I was just thinking, like, the wonders of the internet, right? I write one blog in London, and someone in Perth is reading it, and then goes on to be, become part of your team and a good friend, and it's crazy, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, again, at the time, you guys were the only people that were actually really about those things. You know what I mean? That was the only information I got where someone actually told you how it was, versus being like, yeah, you can be 80 kilos and shredded as a natural, or just buy my program or buy my subs from your sub store, right? and you can be 80 kilos and diced. So and even before that though, I was reading a lot of the information, and this is coming from a trainer as well. A lot of the information you guys were putting out prior to all that was still invaluable, and it was still practical, and you guys were still getting just regular people into shape. You know what I mean? Like in not just good shape, but like incredible shape. And I think that's what originally drew me to all of you, because I was like, man, this is a company who's actually getting results with Gen Pop people, or just a variety of people, and that was great to see at the time.
What was different about, so you've been someone who's been training for over a decade, and you've done some amazing things in the gym. You've been in good shape, like you said, for a long time. What was different about this particular journey that allowed you to realize these extra benefits that potentially before you hadn't experienced? What was different about just not getting into shape? Because I think there's something different here that would be interesting to know your thoughts on.
Yeah, I don't know. I think because when I did come to you guys, I think I've just always been that way for a long time. I've never been overweight. I've always been involved with sports. I've always been involved in training to some extent, right? So I think if I was to just look back, it was more that I was pretty much just at a steady pace for like, I don't know, a good 8 to 10 years, right? Made good progress. I was good. I never went to any or no extreme. I was always like pretty standard, right? And I think that just reflected in everything else I was doing in my life as well. It's like I was just staying still so long, I remember I got back from just a holiday just before I hooked up with you guys, and I just on that holiday, I didn't feel content. I felt quite empty. I don't know why. It wasn't because I just saw some like shredded physique at the beach or anything like that. It was nothing like that. I just got back and I was just like, man, I don't know. I just don't feel like I'm living to my full potential. I don't know how it came about. I don't know. Maybe just the plane ride home gave me a lot of time for reflection. But I just wasn't happy with what I was doing. I just wasn't happy with the trajectory of my life, and I was like, well, let's see what happens if you get into some crazy condition. Like, I think it just started off as just a bit of a test for myself. You know what I mean? Like, when, the whole wanting to chase challenge and discomfort. And I think there's definitely a lot of merit in that, in chasing something that puts you out of your comfort zone, but it has to be something that you also are passionate about. There's a lot of self-help, not gurus, but a lot of self-help tactics where it's like you need to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. You need to do things that put you outside your comfort zone. And initially, if you don't have a real interest in something, it's hard to just put yourself out of your comfort zone because it's hard to know what that is. So I was like, okay, well, I've been training for a long time. I do love the extreme. I love, I admire people with great physiques. I admire people that have worked hard to get there. Let's test myself. This is something I've always wanted to do, and I've never been able to I've always wanted vascular legs. I think that's what I wrote in my application form. I want to be so lean that I have veins crawling up and down my legs.
Well, the funny thing is, I've just pulled up your application form. I just wanted to see it, and I just wanted
what
to.
I said?
Sorry, no, you said I want to reach contest lean condition, even though I don't plan to enter any competition. I've always wanted to know what it feels like, and I've always wanted to achieve vascularity. Oh, you did say it.
Yeah.
Achieve vascularity and deep separation throughout my legs, which has always been relatively difficult for me to achieve.
Yeah. That was it, right? And that was it, because it was just because I pretty much my upper body would just stay lean all the time, right? But for me to get shredded, that would mean quads, hamstrings, glutes, pretty much bone dry. So I was like, I've never been able to go there. So I wanted that was my biggest reason for coming in. I wanted to see what it felt like.
Ivan, do you eat broccoli and cauliflower now?
Never.
You still don't eat it?
No.
Okay, cool.
No.
I just because you said on the application form, I feel uncomfortable with high gas producing foods such as broccoli and cauliflower.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no. So no, I haven't had broccoli cauliflower for years.
If I just for people who might be watching this on YouTube, take a look at Ivan's how Ivan looked back in the day. Just a different person, right?
Yeah.
Just a completely different. I mean, forget the hair and the face. You couldn't even recognize you. Now it's just you walk around with lines on your ass all day long.
Yeah.
If anyone listening in, just either watch it or just check out his case study. You can see the pictures there on the website.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that's actually crazy. I haven't seen a photo of me for that long. I haven't seen a photo back then of me for a very long time. It's crazy what you get used to, right? I was like, well, what the hell is that? Yeah, that's nuts.
Did you have a fear? We spoke about this yesterday, actually, just on a completely separate chat. Did you have a fear of success?
On reflection, when I did ask you about that, I was just maybe I potentially did. Maybe I potentially did, because where I was, let's just say from a professional standpoint, I was in a place where I was like a big fish. I was, in a big fish in a small pond. I was, everyone looked at me as the expert or whatever it was. And I was like, cool, I'm status wise, I'm comfortable here. This is great, etc., etc. Even though I wasn't happy. I wasn't getting anywhere. So it was there was that fear of, okay, what if I go into an unknown place now, which is online coaching, which is different from in-person coaching, as you would know. It's a completely different animal altogether. It was literally being a beginner again, and it was, being put in a place where you're not the big fish. You're a little fish now again, So maybe that initial transition or that thought of going for something that I wasn't really good at first, there was potentially a little bit of not anxiety, but just be like, oh, nah, I'd rather stay where I am, But with regards to physique and stuff, no, I never had a fear of getting to the extreme. I just really didn't have a solid method to get there, at the time. Yeah.
How can you take what you've learned from your own sort of career development with this process, and how do you apply it to other people who are not in the industry but can apply it to their own career development?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. As I was going through that transformation, I was doing things that I've never done before. I've never been an avid fan of cardio. It's actually crazy to think I hated cardio, or I just was never. I always thought there was this big interference effect with your strength. I never did any cardio before I started with you guys. Never formal cardio. Never even tracked my steps.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. It was all just.
I'm saying wow, just because how different you are now. Yeah, you do an hour. You start your day with an hour.
I literally do cardio every day for the last almost 2 years now. Every day. I have a little break. I have a little break there. I'll always go back to my cardio first thing in the morning, and we'll probably talk about it later. But I find that is a huge anchor for my day as well. It's funny how The Rock does that little routine, because I pretty much do the exact same thing. But yeah, so going through that process of doing a lot of cardio, especially by the time I was doing a lot of cardio for a long time, a lot of steps for a long time. And I found that the more I did those things, the more productive I was, the sharper my brain was. Everything was just clicking for me, even just confidence in general, like conversation with people. I always felt like very, very sharp all the time when I was really, really active. And, you know, the more research I did and the more study I did with regards to, you know, IQ, which I touched on that a few weeks ago, where the only way to actually prevent your IQ from decaying over time is activity. You know what I mean? Actually just moving your body is the only proven way to keep your IQ nice and high, because as you get older, it does eventually decrease. It trumps any of those brain games that people play, like luminosity. All those brain games do is just get you good at brain games. Don't actually carry over to anything with regards to intelligence. So again, this is for people that want to have a sharp mind. If your work requires you to be sharp and make hard decisions, and you know, a lot of people rely on you, then it is an absolute must that you train every day. You have some sort of activity scheduled in for you to function at your highest. Because if you're not moving, if your body's not moving, your brain's not moving, and your brain needs that movement to utilize the glucose that goes to your body and stuff like that. Your brain loves it. So I found that was a huge difference just in my day to day. Like the moment I started to get more active, and as I got really, really fit, and yeah, my I don't know, I just felt different. You know, I felt confident in myself. I felt sharp. I felt like I could do a lot more than what I previously could. You know, just from a productivity standpoint. So
it's one of those false economies, isn't it? Because people think, I'm so busy. How am I going to fit time in to train or look after my food and go for walks and things? It's a false economy because yes, you're spending time doing other things, but it amplifies the time you are working, and your brain just kicks into another gear. Like people always ask, like, why do you still train, and why do you still look after yourself? It's like, it's not because I want to look good. It's because I have to. Like it's a duty. If I want to, if we want RNT to be what RNT is, I have to be in shape. Otherwise, I have to. Not because I need to. Go on.
I remember you mentioning that when there was that period where you felt like the business wasn't like, it took you getting into photo shoot shape again to get that spark again for ideas, to get things moving. I remember when you were going through your big cut, there were like a lot of things happening at RNT at that time as well, you know. But I remember you saying you were, when you were heavier and you weren't as active and you weren't looking after yourself as much, you were feeling sloppy. You were feeling like you just didn't have that edge, you know.
Well, if I'm very honest, like I've spoken before, like, you know, the period in the start of 2019 where I just neglected my physical health because I was like, look, we're too busy. Something has to give. What's going to give? Okay, I'm not going to go for walks. My average steps was 1,500 for a period of 6 to 8 weeks. A training dropped to like 3 days a week of half an hour sessions. My nutrition was under eating. I remember I calculated my protein at one point, and I was like, I'm only eating 120 grams of protein. And then, sleep was being sacrificed. I was working till 11 o'clock, waking up at 4 or 5. Like, it was just all over the place. And what happened? I collapsed. My body collapsed. And that was like the massive wake-up call. And if I look back at some of the decisions I made around that time in February, with regards to potential recruitment, with regards to different things that we did, there were some bad decisions there. And that came back to bite me. So and I just think about the state I was in. I was in no state to make good decisions there, right? So and then, as you mentioned, it was only when, you know, I had that wake up call, and then from April, May, I was like, I need to sort this stuff out, because if I stop functioning, this whole thing is going to collapse anyway, and everyone who's part of it is going to lose out. So you know, it took. I used the photo shoot because I was like, well, this is an extreme. Let me just go all the way to the extreme again. And then since then, I've never, my average steps since the photo shoot. It's actually, my photo shoot is, we're recording this on the 4th of September. It was on the 6th of September last year. So we're almost a year away. My average step since then has been 12,000.
There you go.
Since then, I've maintained my body weight around 80 to 82, which I found is my sweet spot. I experimented different ranges of body weight. And I found that's my sort of productive sweet spot.
Yep.
And I don't want to go heavier because that's where, I might be stronger, but it's not worth it for me. The trade-off isn't there. And if I'm lighter, I'm a bit too food focused, and I'm a bit too, my energy isn't quite where it's at. So I found my sweet spot, and now it's like, I have to. Training will never get sacrificed. It's the first thing in my diary every week. Nutrition is never sacrificed. And sleep is never, like, I'll never sleep less than 7 hours now, because I know if I do that, especially more than one day in a row, everything just falls apart. So
agreed.
It's just a different connection to it.
Yeah, and it's just like, you haven't just added more time into your day. You know what I mean? You haven't just added more hours. You're, on the surface, you're dedicating so much more to activity and exercise, but you're so much more productive in the hours that you do work. You know, I think a lot of people equate, I work so many hours. It's like they equate more hours with more productivity. That's not the case. If you can get the same out of 4 hours of work than you would in 8 hours, that's bonus for you. You know what I mean? And you can eventually bring that down if you are efficient with your time and if your brain is very, very active. You know what I mean? Like a really good book, I'm sure you've read it, is Deep Work by Cal Newport. You know what I mean? Super successful author, super smart guy. He will literally just dedicate a few hours, different parts of the day, where he'll just dive into deep work, and he'll get so much more done doing it that way than just trying to work late into the evening, or just work stupid hours all the time, because your brain cannot function at a high level for hours on end without amphetamines. You know what I mean? Like it just cannot, right? So if you're working and studying till like midnight, 1 a.m. because you think you have to work that late, then you're just not prioritizing your time efficiently. Like, you don't have to be doing that. If you are not working till 1 a.m. Every night, and I see the amount of work that you do and what the team does at RNT, like, no one needs to be working that late. You need to prioritize your time. You need to own that time again. Understand that is a time to be sleeping, not a time to be working on deadlines or sending check-ins. Hint.
Just to lead on that, if for example, we're quite lucky in that we have control of our schedules, right?
Of course.
And let's say you don't have control of your schedule and that you're in a typical corporate job. I still think, and I know that your physical health is still a massive priority. And if you do that, then you won't need to stay late, because you'll get your work done quicker. And if you have to stay late just to show face, that's a whole different conversation. But if you're staying late because you're getting things done slowly in the day, then look, it's frightening how much you can get done when you're at your physical peak. And what I think is even better is, people think that it's only last week when you're in the grind or when you're getting lean. But if you apply all those principles to a long investment phase and just life overall, that's when scary things happen, because you now have energy to combine with a productive output, and that's 100%. Where things get done.
100%. And it all, I think, for really, really busy people, and just for most people in general, it's getting that activity done first thing in the morning. Like, that is if there's one tip that I could recommend to most people, is get up and do something active first thing. Get physical. Like, I don't think there's any better way to start your day. I understand people like to meditate. I understand people like to do that sort of thing, or whatever it is. I personally find I'll literally, I'll get up without even thinking, brush my teeth, go to the toilet, weigh myself, put my shoes on, put my jacket on, put the coffee on, take down a heap of water, get my coffee in, and just go for my walk straight away, no matter what. Every morning I've been doing that for the last, over the last year. No matter, even if I've had a really bad sleep, even if I've had to stay late in a few meetings, and get up early the next day, that I just do that no matter what. I find that's a perfect way to start my day. Gets my brain going, gets my digestive system going, and it just puts me in the best mood. No matter how bad I'm feeling, or bad or good or whatever it is, I know a good walk with a good coffee and some water, I'll always feel immaculate when I get back.
How long do you walk for?
Anywhere between maybe 40 to 50 minutes. I'll just go around my neighborhood a couple of times or whatever it is, come back, have like a little, so I'll come back, and then I'll probably get into my cardio as well. So that's pretty much my schedule. I'll do some faster cardio pretty much every morning on the bike. So it's about 40 minutes every morning. So I'd go for my walk, come back, do my little bike ride, and then that's when I'll have my big breakfast. Then I will drive to the gym and get my morning workout done. Do a few little things here and there, come back, and then from about 9:30, 10 a.m. my time, that's where I pretty much work. And I'll always cap my work hours to, I try not to finish. I want everything done by 7 p.m. my time, max, every day. So I'll never do emails at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I'll never work past 7 p.m. unless I'm on like a call or whatever it is. But those are my rules. I will never work that late. I will always, I'll always try to keep the evening times to myself or for socializing or whatever it is. But I'll never ever let work come into my day that late. It's just, I'm not productive at that time. That's a time where you need to be resting, recovering, and yeah, those are pretty much my rules when it comes to that sort of things.
How did you come and land on those? What was the process of landing those? You've just mentioned a few little things that are like almost triggers and cascading impacts on a lot of other things, right?
Yeah,
those things.
Yeah, so I guess it was a lot of experimentation as well. I don't like to separate my day into too many tasks. I like to dedicate like a slot of time for like a dedicated slot of time for like one thing only. So I guess if it's for me personally, like I always focus on myself first before I tackle the day. So that means training, all that stuff has to be taken care of. And then I can come back. Then I know, okay, cool. All my hard stuff, fun stuff for the day is done. And now I've got, okay, cool. I've got like 6 to 8 hours to dedicate to some deep work with like little mini breaks through there. And so I know that, cool. The first half of my day is me, or the first quarter, and then the rest of the day is work, serving others, serving a deeper purpose. Then from 7 till bedtime is just relaxation time, just switch off time. So it's more like, I guess if we were to break up my day, it's like very, very active, then very, very work related, and then just complete switch off. So I know some people like to go activity, work, and sort of spread their day across like that. I found that was okay, but I always found it very, very hard to train with the intensity that I wanted to train after like a deep bout of work. You know what I mean? Like if I've had a lot of check-ins to deal with and like a lot of emails and stuff, I find that I can't just go into the gym, and because I'll still be thinking about my emails, I'll still be thinking about my clients, and if I don't like to be distracted when I'm in the gym. I like to sort of go in there with a clear slate, and yeah, train, focus on me, come back home, and then get into work. So I've got all day to deal with work.
Yeah, it's definitely it's the trial and error process on that. I've played around with a number of different schedules over the years, and for a long period of time I did. I used to train at 1 p.m, but I found like I was too in the middle of it to be able to focus.
Yeah.
I couldn't switch off.
Yeah.
Then I went through a period of trying first thing, but I found personally that I couldn't focus because I hadn't done anything for the bigger purpose yet. So for me, what I find is I do some deep work, whether it's writing or business development first. Then I'll train, and then I'll serve others, if that makes sense, as in in a more traditional sense. Whereas emails or meetings, etc.
Yeah. So that first morning bit though, you are still serving yourself as well, because you love that sort of stuff as well, right?
Exactly. Like when I'm writing, I'm in my flow. If I'm doing that sort of stuff, I'm in my flow. So I feel like I've got that. You probably you get that meditative state when you're in cardio, when you're doing cardio or walking. I get the same sort of 100%. Benefits. So it's similar in the principles. So what I do now is I do that from 6 till 9, and then I train 9ish, and then from then on I'll do it. And then I do the same thing. 7 p.m. is my cutoff time. I won't work past 7. And I'll try and be in bed for about 9:30, 10.
Yeah. And just for everyone listening, Akash and I have not discussed this prior to this call. So that's actually interesting that we are relatively similar on that front. But it's just a I think it just makes sense, even like with circadian rhythms and stuff like that. We all have, our bodies do have an active period. They do. It does. All our clocks have certain times of the day where they are really good at certain things. And if you're always mixing and matching, and if your body doesn't know what the hell's going on, right? Which is another reason why routine and structure is so important. Not only does it eliminate decision fatigue and all those things, but it actually works with your body's clocks a lot better too, right? So that's only going to benefit your health.
I think, yeah, having themes for your day is really big. Like, I like how you said, it's my activity part of the day. This is my deep work part of the day. This is my relaxation.
Yeah.
I think having themes is really good. So for as much as you can control those themes, it's really critical. And then the rest will sort of fall into place. You'll find that your nutrition falls into place, your training falls into place, because you're in a good spot, and you don't need to overthink that. The other thing I do want to touch on though is I used to always think that everyone had to be a morning person. And I know you're quite like that as well, right? You think everyone, you're baffled by the idea of working at 1 a.m. And so am I, right? Yeah. But I am starting to see more and more people who do well. As in, when I say more and more, I'm accepting them when they come in, rather than being I don't think it's the majority. I think the majority probably do better in the morning, but I don't think it's a blanket statement anymore.
No,
I think some people are much more productive in the evening. So the message here really is that you just got to find what your flow state is when that comes into play.
Yeah, and keep it consistent. And keep it consistent.
Yeah. Once you find it, keep it consistent. Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I get that too. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff with regards to chronotype, and there are people who are legit night owls, and if they did try to go into like a more morning focused routine, it doesn't work as well for them. So yeah, I definitely get that too. But I still think there's a huge environmental factor there as well. Like if you're always staying up late, and if you're smashing caffeine at like 10 p.m. to just get work done at 1 a.m., then are you really a night owl, or are you just you're just disorganized. Exactly. So, but yeah, each their own, I guess.
How do you so for people, so you're quite far into your journey. You mentioned the other day you're in a reward phase, right? This is like reaping the rewards of all the hard work you've done. So things like nutrition is automatic to you. You don't think about it. You don't think about training. For people who are more like in the investment phases where they've got to a checkpoint, they've got into shape, and now they're trying to figure out how to build that lifestyle solution. How do you start this process, and how do you continue to refine it? Like, how do you know when your training time is, or when what sort of foods you should be eating, and how do you develop the education around that?
Yeah, it's a good question. And as always, it's going to come down to what you want from this process, right? Like I knew what I wanted pretty much from the start. I knew that the sort of training that I was getting into, it would help to be lighter, on the leaner side. So I've always had that. I've always knew where I wanted my own journey to go with regards to body composition, with regards to training. So I think that obviously gave me a good advantage to there. And then once I actually got that vision of where I wanted to see myself, I could just start, again, reverse engineering and understanding, okay, what do I need to get there? How does my day need to look like for me to sort of live the life that I want to live, And yeah, it all comes down to the structure stuff. You're going to say something?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to elaborate on the picturing the future. Can you talk about that a bit more? Like, how do you get into that state? Like,
yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, if I am drawing from my own experience, it was more just once I got into the shape that I wanted to get into, and I saw all the benefits that came with it. I personally loved it. Again, like I've spoken about this numerous times, I was always covered up, still am always covered up. I do it for me. I've always done these sort of things for myself personally. And yes, I got the comments too about you're too lean, this and that, blah, 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 blah. Never ever got to me, because I knew what I wanted and the way I wanted to look, right? So once I got there, I was like, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to live. Okay. How can I make this a reality over the long term without letting it take over my life? Because the thing is, everyone always says to me, you're so disciplined, you're so this, you're so that. It's like, no, I'm not. I literally feel like I don't elicit any willpower on anything that I do. I just do the things that I like doing. you know, so I think obviously having that is a bit of an advantage too, but I don't perceive it as a huge effort. I perceive it in a way that this is who I want to be, and this is the way that I want to be living for the rest of my life. And yeah, with regards to how I saw that vision, it was just, I don't know, I never felt happier. I never felt more content when I was in the shape of my life and I was doing all those things. Like I was doing the cardio, I was doing the steps. I still do all those things, the training, but I didn't see those things as chores. You know what I mean? I've never seen them as things, oh, I've got to go do my steps or I've got to go do my cardio. It's like I've always had the mentality of I get to go for a walk. I get to do my cardio. Like it's an absolute privilege, you know what I mean? Like, especially with the whole pandemic lockdown thing, when people were actually locked in a house for days and weeks on end, like I'm sure everyone went stir crazy, right? So I've never looked at, I've always wanted to be active. I've always wanted to live this sort of lifestyle. I've always wanted to be this person, you know, looking back. And then, yeah, the once I knew that, like fundamentally, it was not hard for me to start chasing that. It wasn't hard for me to envision this lifestyle solution and envision what I wanted my life to look like. You know, I still love what I do every single day. You know, like I still get a huge kick out of my training. I get a huge kick out of my routine, as sad as that sounds. I get a huge kick out of just my meals. Like everything is great, you know. And again, people will be like, oh, you're sort of lucky, you do this, you do that. But I still think I cultivated this luck, you know, through hard work and through just being in the right place at the right time as well. But yeah, with regards to actually envisioning where I wanted my life to go, it's a tough question. I just sort of knew. I was just like, I wanted to, I think what it fundamentally comes down to was I wanted to replicate this feeling every single day, you know, and how can I do that? You know, I want to go down this avenue of training. I want to start chasing skills. I think that brings me a lot of satisfaction, not just from a physical standpoint, but from it's a very mentally stimulating pursuit as well, which I think is also very important when it comes to an investment phase. You need to enjoy the training that you do. You need to cultivate a love for some sort of training, for something that gets you up in the morning, for something that actually motivates you to want to exercise and exert yourself. You know, or like what we said yesterday, you know, find a way to load your skeleton. Whatever that is, you know, is that through resistance training, if it's through gymnastic stuff, if it's through Zumba, it's whatever you like. And then, yeah, I don't know if that really explains it, but yeah, I don't know.
It does, because you said that, you know, you found where you feel best at, and you just want to replicate that. And then it's like, okay,
pretty much.
I don't want to be restricting myself. How do I set up my nutrition, training, activity, sleep, etc., to make this reality long term?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's very, very possible. It requires choice and understanding what you want and living by what you want there. So I think what you said there is right on the money. What I want to add to that is you're talking about you don't want to feel restricted, and there's this perception, right, that if you're on this journey, you have a certain restriction on your diet, and you can't integrate yourself because you're quote unquote on the RNT diet.
Whatever that is.
This is obviously a massive frustration for all of us. Tell us why that's complete bullshit. And
where do I start? Well, number one, there is no such thing as an RNT diet. There is nothing like that, not that I'm aware of. Can you confirm?
I've not written anything about it.
Again, we will always abide by some principles that we like to follow with regards to how we set a meal plan up. I think a lot of people have the misconception. So for anyone who is listening, who is in the process phase, understand that the diet that you are on now is not going to be the diet you are on forever. Okay, there is definitely room for that to change. There is no such thing as the diet that you're doing now doesn't mean that this is the same thing that you need to be doing for years on end or whatever it is. It's just like at the moment you are still learning the principles of nutrition. You're still learning what good food is, or what healthier foods are compared to others, what's going to keep you fuller for longer. You know, the reason that we structure the meals the way we do is because of principles, not because of not because so we can name it an RNT diet. It's the understanding that you've probably come from a place where you haven't actually been taught or shown how to eat properly. You haven't fed your body productively for a very long time. And now we're just trying to fill your body up with nutrients and get you to the best place that we can before we actually do start incorporating more flexibility within your plan. Okay, that flexibility does come later on, especially in a lifestyle solution, right? Because again, part of our goals with anyone, or my goals with anyone anyway, is to understand that the principles they learn throughout their process phase, they can apply that to the lifestyle solution. They can apply it when they actually go out with friends. There is no reason that you still can't go out, enjoy a meal, and still stay on track. Just because you have a meal out does not automatically mean that that meal is going to turn to body fat. It just doesn't work like that, you know. And anywhere you go these days, anywhere you go, I've been to the UK. You guys have an incredible range of healthy meals that you can get at even like petrol stations now. You can go to McDonald's and get a chicken salad if you wanted to. So there should never be an excuse most of the time to not be able to make a good choice when you're out. Okay. And again, part of the lifestyle solution is understanding how to make these choices and how to make the best in the situation that you're in. There's no reason for you to make poor choices. There is no reason to be stuck anywhere. You know, there's always a best option no matter where you go. And I think it's up to us and up to you guys to understand that and cultivate that over the journey. So you have the tools to be able to go out, have a meal out with friends, not worry about it turning to body fat the next day, and just getting on with your life. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people who are in the lifestyle solution and investment phase now are all practicing that. I think your client Shiv is a fantastic example of that, right? Like he's living it up now, right?
Yeah. I think one thing that you touched on is in the process phase, the reason we talk about limiting decisions is because you have no concept of education at that point, and you have to build the foundation. The only way to build foundation is almost through automatic behavior. Once you nail the automatic behavior and you've built a level of education, then you can add the variety on top. But you can only add variety on top of a solid foundation. If you add variety on top of variety, you end up with nothing, and you end up spinning your wheels. So you have to automate first and then build the flexibility on top. But understand that the automation is what allows the future flexibility and allows you to ultimately have your cake and eat it. You can't have your cake if you don't know what the cake constitutes, and you don't you don't know how. And the other thing is, like you said, you know, when you can make good choices when you're out. And I think in a process phase, absolutely, and even going forwards, like in a lifestyle solution phase, you know, there's always healthy options when you go out. But let's say, for example, you're someone who, you know, you are an actual foodie, or you're someone who, you know, likes to enjoy different types of foods. That's also something that can be integrated. You don't have to eat salads for the rest of your life. You can if you enjoy once a week having a 3-course meal, if you enjoy having a pizza once a week, these can all be integrated into your lifestyle. You just need to know what changes need to be made elsewhere to allow for that. And you also need to be in a position where you don't go out and you don't just binge on these things. Like binging doesn't feature anyway. You can binge on nuts, you can binge on salad, and those things will turn to body fat as well. Like you can always overeat on traditionally good or traditionally bad foods, but the key here really is the education piece. And education is an underpinning of this whole journey. And I think from the investment phase, if you're on the journey, you have to really become a student of the journey and embrace the education that comes with it, and understand that there's going to be a lot of trial and error here to find what you want, and to be able to educate yourself on a topic that's not easy. Understanding nutrition in the real world without relying on trackers and meal plans is difficult. You have to develop that intuition. Yeah,
exactly. But again, that can only be developed once you've gone through that learning phase. You know what I mean? Like, I love how people are now talking about intuitive eating. It's like, we could maybe do intuitive eating because we've been tracking everything for years on end. You know what I mean? Like, we can make an intuitive choice because we've been so accurate for so long. But trying to tell someone who's got no idea about intuitive eating, if someone who's overweight, obviously they have been intuitive eating for a very long time, and look where that got them. So it's a skill that needs to be developed and learned. And I think moving away from tracking and not being so, like, throughout the process phase, like, we do encourage that precision of accuracy, right? Of weighing things out and not eyeballing portions, a few weeks into your plan. You know what I mean? It's just, it can't be done at that point in time. You know what I mean? You can get a good eye for eyeballing during the lifestyle solution, during the investment phase. And that is the time where you actually can experiment with these things. And this is where trial and error can become really fun and can become part of a very, just an ever evolving process. You know what I mean? During the process phase, there's a little bit more, not tunnel vision, so to speak, but there is that sort of transformation checkpoint that you're aiming for. And you do want to hit that place first, because once you're there, you can then now start to experiment. You can then start to be like, okay, well, what sort of lifestyle do I want? Yeah, do I want to be able to go out once a week with my family, enjoy whatever I want, and stay in a relatively similar body composition? Yes, we can do that. We just have to maybe put you in a slight deficit for that week, if that's the lifestyle that you want to live. And then you can enjoy that meal with friends and family. Like, again, for myself, like, I wouldn't want to do that approach, or even for yourself, because we value our training. Why would we restrict during the week when that's the time we want to be fueling our performance, right? It doesn't make sense for us to restrict calories throughout the week just so we can have this big meal out on the weekend. I don't think that makes sense from, like, an athlete point of view. You know what I mean? If you got strength goals, if you got performance goals, you want to fuel for performance. You don't want to restrict yourself all week just so you can have a meal out on the weekend, right? Because I think that's a very, very slippery slope for many people. And as you said before, there's nothing wrong with going out for a couple slices of pizza. There's nothing wrong with going out for a burger. But there's a difference between having one burger and then having 3 burgers, a whole tub of ice cream, and then a whole bag of chocolate, right? There's a huge difference there. And it's that whole overeating thing that, again, you can binge on anything. As you said, you can binge on nuts, you can binge on salad, and you can get fat from doing those things. I've always said there's no such thing as a fattening food, only fattening amounts. And the thing is, I think once people get to this lifestyle solution, or once they've done with their transformation checkpoint, they think that they can just go back to those behaviors and just, yeah, cool, I'm just going to do this, this, and this, and then overeat again on the weekends and go back to that sort of lifestyle, that's not the case at all. But the principles that you do pick up throughout the process phase, they do have to be applied to some magnitude throughout the entire journey. But how they are applied is going to be very individual to you and the lifestyle you want to live. So, and again, that's where the fun begins, to be honest. Like, I think there are so many paths you can go down after you've got your checkpoint. Like, it's literally limitless,
Yeah. And it's just, all it takes is a willingness to be educated and to want to try and error and hold yourself accountable to that trial and error. Because, like you said, it's very easy to just go back to your normal, and you need to hold yourself accountable to the experimentation that you're going to be doing, and also to be led a guiding light on how that process unravels. One thing we touched on yesterday, actually, in a separate chat, was around, I've forgotten the word, something around dieting. When you're
reactive dieting.
Reactive dieting. Talk about reactive dieting, because that's a big problem people face.
Yeah, so reactive dieting is a good example would be you finish your process phase, you hit the transformation checkpoint, you look great, you go through the consolidation, or you're going through consolidation, and you notice the scale weight is starting to go up, which is nothing to worry about, because those initial increases in your scale weight is not body fat. If you're consolidating properly, the increase in calories that you're now allowed, so to speak, it's never going to lead to body fat gain. It's always going to lead just to having extra glucose in your muscles, extra water in your muscle cells, even just extra food volume in your gut, right? That is not actual added body fat. I know no matter how many times we say this, it's, people are still going to think it is. And then the reactive dieting would be like, oh, I've gone up 1.5 kilos, I need to diet again, or I overate one day, back for another week. I
Back
have
on
to
the
get
back on the
to where I
grind,
was.
is it?
Back on the grind, yeah. Going off after having one meal off plan, or you felt that you overate because your scale weight went up a little bit overnight, and now you got to diet again. So it's not dieting. It's not a planned diet. It's reactive dieting. You're reacting to a certain situation for whatever reason because you think that's the only answer to what's happening at the moment, right? It's not a well thought out plan. It's a reactive plan to something.
What's the problem with it?
You just end up spinning your wheels, and you're not. My personal opinion on this is, what are you actually running from when you're trying to do these things? These reactive diets do seem to be a bit of a reflection of something else that's happening in your life, whether you're losing control. Usually when it comes down to these decisions to go, I want to restrict, that tells me there is something that you're not controlling in your life that is outside of nutrition, that is outside of training, and you just want to feel like you're in control again. Because dieting feels good initially, right? It feels good to just restrict and see your body change straight away. We all know that a week of good dieting, you can look dramatically different. And I think a lot of people potentially, they do, especially during the process phase, they get hooked on that feeling of looking different every week, and that completely changes in a lifestyle solution. That completely changes in an investment phase, and it's like they are searching for that something novel, shiny object syndrome as well. If you've been in an investment phase for a while, let's mini cut. You don't need a mini cut. You've been muscle building for the last 2 months. You don't need a mini cut. Like, a mini cut's gonna do you nothing. But you're chasing that feeling of, I don't feel like I'm making progress, or because people equate progress to dieting. You know what I mean? So they want to feel something.
Well, people always congratulate others for dieting. They don't congratulate others for having a lifestyle solution. Like, I always, I admire the fact that you've stayed in shape. You've got lines on your ass for 2 years straight. I don't admire the fact that you had lines in your ass in the first place, because that can be done by just some restriction for a couple of months. But building a lifestyle to keep it, well, that's impressive.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's probably the nicest compliment anyone's ever given me. But that's exactly right. No one ever congratulates someone for being, hey, well done for maintaining your shape for the last year.
Yeah.
But even though that's what everyone wants. That's what everyone wants. You want that. You achieve if your goal is that lifestyle solution, you achieve your physique and you manage to stay there while also incorporating other elements of life. You know what I mean? Like, being in the shape of your life doesn't mean just living at home and being a hermit forever. That is not the case. You know what I mean? And if that's what you want, fantastic, go for it. But if you need to understand that your physique has to also represent what you want out of life. You know what I mean? That is the lifestyle solution. The lifestyle solution isn't about just looking good, because that means nothing if you're miserable. That means nothing if the whole world around you is collapsing. You know what I mean? Like, it's not worth it at all. And again, like, if I was ever feeling that way, I would change my composition in a second. Okay. I would add weight until I would remove the lines from my glutes if it was a very big burden on my life and it wasn't allowing me to do things that I wanted to do. And I've never, ever felt that way. And I encourage everyone to find that sweet spot for them, because that sweet spot is different for everyone. And so that's what you need to understand, what your lifestyle solution is. It's like, how does that look to you? You don't have to replicate someone else's lifestyle solution. Okay? Find the solution that is for you. And that is where the experimentation comes in. It's like, do you want to be that person who maintains their composition, doesn't really care about their progress in the gym, but likes to be able to go out for a meal with friends and not let it hinder them that much? Okay. Are you someone who wants to now grow muscle and fuel your performance and get stronger over the next couple of years? Fantastic. You're going to eat like an athlete. Okay. And again, like, there are many variations of that, but it's finding what works for you. Do you want to now be able to have dinner with your family every night and have what they have? Fantastic. If that is the case, then you need to also accept that your composition may not be where you want it to be. So it's going to be that fine line. You need to find the body that you're comfortable with that allows you to live the life that you want.
So
That's
true.
the way.
So true. So last year when I got into photo shoot condition, I thought when I was coming on the way down, I thought, let me think about where my new sweet spot's going to be. And as I was coming down, I thought, you know what, I'm really productive around 76 to 78. But it's different when you're coming down, because when you're coming down, you're still focused on the shoot and you can't really think about what you're really productive at. When that's coming back up, if you come back up in a proper way, you can really know where your sweet spot is. And I found, like, I tried for 8 to 10 weeks I kept my lines on my arse for 8 to 10 weeks. And I was like, yeah, it was good keeping it, but I was obsessed with keeping it. Like it didn't feel automatic. It didn't feel normal. I had to think about it too much. I was like, oh shit, I've got to get this much activity in, and it was becoming a burden, right? And then I let the lines go, as you said. And then I thought, let me say around 76, 78. And I just still found, like, because I was still pretty lean then, I thought, my performance in the gym is not good. I'm going there, I'm maintaining every single week. I'm just lifting the same way. I'm not really making any progress. I'm not strong as I used to be. And because training is such an important part of my life, it was affecting that. And so even though I was productive in work, my training wasn't good. So I was like, okay, let me put the body up a bit more. And I found as soon as I got to like 80 to 82, I was productive, but I was also getting stronger every week. And I had a good social element as well, because I don't want to restrict that element. So I was able to eat out. I was able to stay in good shape. Yeah. And then I thought, let me see what 83 to 84 looks like. So I thought, may maybe this will push my strength to another level. Yeah, strength got good, but then I didn't like the way I looked, because I was like,
too much.
Just don't feel as crisp as normal. Like, I want to look a little. I want to look reasonable, right? Then I pulled it back down, and now I stay around 81.5 today, and I seem to sit around 81 to 82 for quite a while. I feel really good here. It ticks all the boxes.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like that's a perfect example, right? And this is us, like, decades into this game, and we are still experimenting, right? Yeah. We are still playing with things. So the thing is, like, the way I see it is, you have your body for the rest of your life. Legit. There's nothing more concrete than you are going to be living in your body forever. It doesn't end. There is no end date. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are always going to be experimenting. You are always going to be finding what works for you. And just because something works for you now doesn't mean it's going to be the same in 3 months or 6 months or a year. Like, things are always changing. Like, 2020 is a perfect example of that, right? Like, the amount of things that we've had to adapt to has been ongoing, right? So this experimentation and finding what works for you doesn't just end, right? It's always going to be evolving. It's always going to be changing. And I think that's extremely fun. I think that's a fantastic place to be in. And I think you shed some really good light there on, I think, having that introspection for yourself and knowing and being okay with that. Being like, you know what? It's okay for me to be a bit heavier, because I know it's going to allow me to progress in the gym. And I think another key thing that you said there was that being that lean was just too much of a focus for you. It was it was taking up too much cognitive capacity for you to just be there automatically, and that's where you're like, no, this is not worth it, and it's great to be able for you to be able to go, okay, this is not great. I need to go up a little bit, and then find that sweet spot, because then you went too far, but then you pulled it back again.
Yeah, I don't want to be the 90 kilo boy again. The performance is great, but like everything else is just like it's just not where it wants to be. But the other thing around the lines on the arse, because I remember I was saying to you, like, I want to keep it, and part of me was like, you know what, I haven't done it. I'm gonna see if I can do it, right? I had a bit of that, but then I was like, well, for me, it's not automatic. Like, I was just, I remember, like, if I wanted to go out to eat, I was like, holy shit, I've got to like make sure my week stays in a calorie, like, I've got to find that calorie sweet spot. Yeah. I can't just go out on the whim like that. It's for me, the way I was anyway. And I was like, I've got to keep this level of activity up. I'm training 6 days a week. It's just too much. I was like, I prefer 4 days a week. I like 4 hard days and then 10 to 12,000 steps. That's what I like doing and what I'm willing to do. And one cardio session on a Wednesday.
And that's going to vary from person to person. Like, I personally just like being really active. As I said before, like, I don't find it a chore. Like, I find it fun. Like, I find it a great way to pass the time. But I understand that's not everyone. I understand that's not the case for most people. So, and again, like, that's the thing. If it was, as I said to you earlier, if it was such a mental task for me, or if it was taking up so much time, or I was so food focused all the time, like, I wouldn't do that. Like, I'm not going to put myself through that for what? You know, like, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people also have that misconception that I'm like suffering every day and like, you know, trying to live this stoic life. It's like, no, hell no. Like, if I was in pain all day, if I was that food focused, or, you know, if I wasn't seeing progress in the gym, like, that would kill me. You know what I mean? I'd be like, what am I doing, man? Like, the last thing I want is my elbows to be snapping or my groins to be snapping, you know? Like, I want to feel strong in there. And if I do catch myself starting to get weaker, or if I catch myself not progressing, then I will be like, no, I don't want this. I want to be at a level where I'm still making gains. And luckily for the stuff that I'm doing, you know, being lighter does help. My leverages are better when I'm lighter. To an extent, though, doesn't mean I have to like disappear. You know, there is obviously a fine line. But yeah, if I'll be the same as you, man. If I notice my performance in the gym, if I notice my performance in life, like if I catch myself being really snappy with my family, if I catch myself being very snappy just with people, like, I probably know maybe I'm going a little bit too far. So that's my little gauge as well. And yeah, it's not worth it for me, you know, I will be as lean as I can without letting all those other things be affected, right? No one should ever know that I'm in shape, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
And the funny thing is, if you, like, you know, you said the thing around snapping and affecting, the dangerous thing that we both suffer with is that channeling. We can channel it, and we won't even realize it. So we have to be really self-aware that we're not channeling that snappiness or the suffering, so to speak.
Yeah, I know.
Especially if you're someone who likes that. If you like that, it can be easy to just fall into that trap of, and you've got to be aware of that you're thinking like that.
Yeah, so, but again, that comes with introspection, that comes with trial and error, and that comes with experimentation. Yeah.
Just on the training note, I think training progression is a really good indicator for someone's lifestyle solution, because I think no matter where you are on the spectrum, how strong you want to get, I think if you're making some sort of progression in whatever modality you're using, that's a really good marker. Like, for example, if you were still predominantly in the gym, you probably want to be a bit heavier, because it's just not going to be suitable for carrying a lot of external load. But because your training modality is gymnastics, it works well. So that's a really good marker for people.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's about, finding, and again, like, as I was telling you yesterday, like, I need to accept that at some level, like, I'm not going to be able to make that much progress on my squat, on my deadlift, because they all require they just require so much full body. That, again, at the end of the day, you need to have a bit of a belly to have that bracing, right? It's good to have that bit of padding there. It's good to have that bit of padding there when you're like deep in a squat. Like, the last thing I want to be doing is having that much weight on my back where I can actually feel my femurs jamming into my rib cage. It's not a stable place to be, you know. But I can do other things with my legs that doesn't require loading a bar on my back, right? Or, you know, pulling a bar off the floor. So it's about finding, it's about what you just said. It's about finding, you need to be progressing in something, and there has to be some measurement of progression. You know what I mean? You have to be working towards something that is telling you, okay, you are improving. You know, I think whatever it is, you know, there has to be that element of, are you improving in something? You know,
physical is the vehicle.
Always. And you don't want to be driving a Datsun. You want to be driving a Ferrari, you know? Your body is a Ferrari.
Amazing. Perfect way to end it. Thanks for coming on, Ivan.
No worries, man. Thank you.